Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into the amazing evolution of human resources. You know, how it went from being a back office department just focused on paperwork to becoming a super important strategic partner that's actually shaping the future of how we work. It's all about the shift from managing personnel to really empowering people.
So, let's just start with a question you've probably wondered about yourself. What does HR really do? I mean, are they just the paper pushers who handle payroll and company policies? Or is there something bigger going on, a more strategic role being played behind the scenes?
To get to the bottom of that, we all need to be on the same page. So, first things first, let's lock in a clear, modern definition of what human resource management actually means today.
Okay, at its heart, you can think of HRM as managing the entire employee journey. I'm talking from the moment someone is recruited and onboarded, through all their training and development, right up to their compensation and even their exit interview. The whole shebang. It's the system that's designed to support employees, all with the big picture goal of helping the entire organization win.
But you know, it wasn't always this grand and strategic. The whole field has gone through this massive change, evolving from something that used to just be called personnel management. Now, this really gets to the core of the whole transformation. It shows this huge shift in thinking. See, personnel management was all about administration. It viewed people basically as a cost on a spreadsheet, an input to be managed with decisions coming from the top down. But modern HRM, it completely flips that script. It sees people as the most valuable resource a company has, an asset you invest in, develop, and motivate through teamwork and shared decisions. It's a total night and day difference.
And this new, modern approach to HR isn't just some feel-good philosophy. Nope, it's actually built right into the core principles of management. You know, the playbook that every single successful leader uses, whether they're in HR or running the whole company.
Just think of these 5 things as the universal game plan for getting results through people. First, you plan your goals. Then you organize the work in the teams. You staff those teams with the right talent. You lead and motivate them. And finally, you control or measure performance to make sure you're on track. Now, every manager does this, but HR acts as the expert coach for the whole process, especially for that super critical staffing piece, finding and keeping the absolute best people for the job.
Okay, so we figured out what modern HR is and how different it is from the old way. But that brings up a really big question. Why? Why did this all happen? What forces were so powerful that they completely reshaped an entire part of the business world? Well, it wasn't just one thing. It was more like a perfect storm of 5 massive global trends all hitting at once. Major changes in who we are, where we work, and the tools we use pretty much made the old administrative way of doing things totally obsolete. First up, let's talk about demographics. I mean, just look around. The workforce today looks completely different than it did a few decades ago. As you can see here, it's way more diverse across the board. For HR, this isn't just a number on a chart. It means they have to think strategically about creating more inclusive policies and flexible ways of working to support a much wider range of people and perspectives. And then there's globalization, which really shows how companies are now playing on a worldwide stage. This isn't just about finding cheaper labor anymore. We're talking about companies like Toyota having huge sales teams in America, or GE having major engineering hubs in France. This creates some serious challenges for HR, right? They now have to deal with different cultures, time zones, and a web of complicated international labor laws.
But maybe the biggest driver of all this change is technology. Get this, according to the consulting firm Accenture, an estimated 80% of new hires will soon come from social media tools like LinkedIn. That is a massive, seismic shift. It puts technology right at the center of how companies find talent.
So when you put it all together, a more diverse, more global, and way more tech-savvy workforce, it just makes sense that the skills needed to be an HR professional have had to evolve in a huge way too.
And here's the bottom line. Being good at the old school tasks, hiring, training, and paperwork, it's just not enough anymore. Not even close. To really be a strategic partner, today's HR manager has to speak the language of the entire business. They've got to understand the company's strategy, how it markets itself, how it makes its products, everything.
The Society for Human Resource Management, you'll hear them called SHRM, they saw this shift happening and developed a whole new model for what it takes. And these 8 areas, they basically define the modern strategic HR leader. We're talking about skills like business acumen and critical evaluation. That's a long, long way from just managing personnel files, right?
When you boil it all down, this quote from author Gary Dessler just says it all perfectly. This is the ultimate goal of modern human resource management. It's to build the right systems and offer the right expertise so that every single manager can get results through their people, because their people are their most valuable asset.
So, all this leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've seen the journey from administrator to strategic partner, but now, with technologies like AI starting to automate more and more tasks, what comes next? In a world with so much automation, how does the human part of human resources have to evolve all over again?